Hey everyone, welcome to the Wrestling Experience.
where we're very jealous of our truth because he was able to get a PS6 while we struggle to get a PS5.
Like I was telling you before, this is exactly like the WWE. They blue ball us into something that we want and then we can just never get it.
That's that's the artificial demand we don't want. We don't even know why we want it.
Exactly. I'm Jazz,
I'm Johnny.
and we are here to recap Monday Night Raw, which overall I thought that it was a pretty decent show. I think for me, the MVP of this show was Riddle, once again. I love everything that he does. It's just so good.
I can't believe it, but I have to agree with you. Yeah,
Uh, oh my
he
god.
was so good. I mean, Drew, of course. Drew's on this episode,
He
so no complaints
was.
there. Randy Orton was firing on all cylinders this episode too.
I see what
It
you
was a
did
pretty
there.
good.
I see what you did there. Firing on all
Yeah,
cylinders. Oh man, you're such a clever guy.
you got it. You got me. Yeah. So solid go home episode.
Yeah.
But it opens up with the dirt sheet, which I know you've been hating Miz TV, but this is the dirt sheet, so maybe it's different. Maybe you feel better about it. I don't know.
Well, okay, so they basically presented it sort of like a story time thing where they call it the Nightmare Before TLC. And then the Miz, obviously in typical Miz fashion, he plugs his TV show, and then he talks about them having a handicap match against Keith Lee later tonight. So he does it in a very clever fashion. Honestly, I didn't mind this. Like I thought this was a very different way of kind of showing the feud, but essentially he introduces the protagonist of the story, AJ Styles. He introduces the mighty Scottish warrior, which is John Morrison, who actually,
Cosplaying as Braveheart, right?
yeah, he actually says that very hilarious "they won't take my freedom" line. And just to kind of rewind a little bit, a little flashback, a little I guess a little flavor of the past. Remember when Drew McIntyre was this fresh baby face, about what 10 years ago or something like that, and John Morrison was feuding with him, and John Morrison yet again had the Braveheart, makeup and thing going on. I just thought that it was really beautiful that they went full circle from this feud from like a very long time ago.
Very good throwback there, yeah.
So they act as basically AJ Styles is going to, hit Drew McIntyre with a chair. He's going to put him through a table. He's going to throw him around. And then Morrison grabs a sword, but then Styles takes the sword and then he impales him. And he climbs the ladder and he retrieves the title. Anyways, it's all great, but the one thing that you have to kind of, I guess, take away from this is that The Miz says that if AJ Styles should fail, that's when The Miz cashes in the contract and then pins Drew 1, 2, 3. And AJ Styles isn't happy about that.
Yeah, they were saying that wasn't in the book, and then Miz did some revisions. They were saying something about books don't have credits because they were talking about credits for some reason. There was also a funny thing with Omos where they kind of put the spotlight on him for 2 seconds,
That was
but
funny.
Miz is like, no, we're just trying to speed things up.
Hmm.
Before anything can happen, though, Sheamus comes out,
Hmm.
and apparently he thought he saw everything in WWE, but no, he's been surprised by this Nightmare Before TLC segment.
Yeah, and he
Yeah,
actually has a match with AJ Styles, but before that, AJ throws a Christmas tree at Sheamus, and then Sheamus kind of fights back, and he hits him with a present. And
that was funny though. That was
that was
great.
that was I chuckled at that. So we have our first match of the night after the break. We have Sheamus versus AJ Styles, and dude, honestly, I don't know if Sheamus has kind of gone through a fountain of youth or whatever, but he was firing on all cylinders, and he's looking really, really good.
Yeah, we've been saying it for a while. Sheamus is really amazing right now, and this was an amazing match.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
there's a lot of yeah. So
I mean, what I liked about it is that Sheamus kind of showed this aggressiveness to him, like he was laying the European uppercuts on Styles early on, followed by like a barrage of suplexes, and then Styles kind of took advantage when he hits him in the throat, and basically Styles is kind of overtaking the match, and every single time that Sheamus kind of tried to fight back or had some sort of advantage, almost would interfere. And at one point, Sheamus started favoring his left leg. He does hit Styles with a white noise, but only gets a 2 count. And as he's kind of picking up Styles, going to the top rope for another white noise, I guess his legs kind of give out. AJ Styles, he gets out of it. He attacks his left leg once again, and then he gets the pin. But yeah, like honestly, this match should just be seen instead of us just talking about it. I thought it was really, really good. And I don't know if Sheamus fought AJ Styles before, but again, I'd be curious to kind of for them to kind of continue this feud, maybe post TLC.
Yeah, there was also a funny spot where Sheamus had AJ in like a powerbomb position and almost just kind of like picks AJ right off of Sheamus's shoulders and gently puts him down, and then they have a stare down, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, the left leg was the main part of the story, and that's how AJ picks up the win after chopping his leg after a failed white noise attempt.
But it wasn't
Very
over.
good match.
It wasn't over. Unfortunately,
the fight continues, and the attacks on the leg also continue. Sheamus is still like recovering. AJ's trash talking him, right? But Sheamus doesn't like it, so he starts to beat him up through the ropes, but almost gets involved, and then Sheamus ends up getting pulled out of the ring, but his leg gets caught. Yeah. Both of his legs actually get caught between the two ropes after they get twisted together, and then almost hands AJ a steel chair, and AJ just goes to town with the steel chair on Sheamus, and poor guy.
Poor guy. So we're going to jump to the Hurt Business, basically bullying one of the crew members backstage who's just minding his own business, eating a bro nut, wearing a
bro cap.
A bro cap, exactly. And MVP doesn't like his hat, and the guy actually offers him a bro nut, and Lashley didn't like that, so he takes a glass of milk and he just pours it all over him. And
because milk goes with bro nuts. But yeah, they're just bullies. Again, 2 weeks in a row, just bullying people. Sarah's there, though. She wanted to get an interview, but it looks like she was a bit intimidated. But she asks MVP about facing Riddle tonight, and he mentions how he's going to teach Riddle a lesson, but he's also going to teach her about journalism, because what she should have been asking was about the rest of the team and their big 6-man tag match against the New Day plus Jeff Hardy. And then I think they all take turns saying that they're going to beat up the New Day and Jeff Hardy, pretty much.
Essentially, and speaking of the New Day and Jeff Hardy, they're up next, they're prepping for their match, and Riddle is there, and he has another new business idea. Yes. So he's like, you guys miss Big E, right? Well, tonight, why don't you have Bro E in your corner? And they're really psyched, and they're really happy about that. I'm happy as well. And then Jeff Hardy, he says it. He says Hardy Bros. He said the thing.
He did, and Riddle was so happy, but then Jeff went out to do his entrance. The New Day also did their entrance right after, and we got the Hurt Business coming in.
It was a really good tag match.
This one was good, too.
Yeah.
Lashley is really strong early on against Kofi, and then Alexander tags himself in, which was kind of there was a bit of tension there, and the New Day actually does take the upper hand there, and then they celebrate. Everyone's happy. There's the trumpets being played and everything before commercial, and then we have the second half of the match, and I don't believe it was Lashley was not the legal man, but while the ref was distracted, he like tossed Kofi out of the ring while he was in the corner. That was interesting. There was a nice sequence with Jeff Hardy and Alexander pinning each other. Lashley does get a tag in, and he tries to lock in the Hurt Lock. Jeff escapes. He crashes into the ring post, but he doesn't seem to phase him too long because he's able to get the Hurt Lock again later, and this time Jeff Hardy is out, and the Hurt Business pick up a win here, and Alexander is again celebrating much more than everybody else.
Yeah, he's celebrating like he's won the WWE title. Now we're going to go to Asuka and Lana. They're backstage, and Lana's worried about facing Nia Jax tonight. Asuka is cheering her up, like she's kind of pumping her up, and she's like, "You're the bravest person I know. I'm very proud to be your partner." And so we have our next match. We have Lana versus Nia Jax, and honestly, Lana just impressed me this match. The match kind of lasted just a minute long, but she takes down Nia Jax with the Hurricane Rana and the spin kick. The spin kick looked really, really good. Nia does hit her with a headbutt from the top rope. She goes for a Samoan drop, but Lana reverses it. She kicks Nia, and she basically trips her onto the rope, so Nia's kind of dangling. And she stomps on her, and she pins her for the win. So Lana wins against Nia Jax. Wow.
We call it. She did it. Everyone's happy about it too. Nia is shocked as well. And that's not the end of it, because backstage Asuka is happy for Lana as well, but she gets attacked by Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler comes down to the ring. They all beat up on Lana. They take her out. I think they remove her boot, and they crush her ankle completely. Nia drops her leg twice, so Lana is completely out. Asuka does come to save the day, but the damage has been done.
Yeah, so, and we're told later on that Lana is removed from the match at TLC, but we'll get to that. So before, we do have Elias, who's in the ring with Jackson Riker. I don't know if you remember that guy, but Jackson Riker.
Of course, in case you were wondering why he wasn't wearing a suit with a hoodie and following Baron Corbin as the Lone Wolf Knights or whatever, the Knights of the Lone Wolf, well, he's here now. He's basically tattooed version Elias.
Essentially, I just love that we have two Forgotten Sons that are following Baron Corbin, and we have the other one that's following Elias.
At least they're not forgotten now. But Elias's promo is killer here because he talks about how he got shocked 2 weeks ago and a lesser man could have died. Yeah. But he's basically a living legend. And now and then Riker gets a moment to speak, and he basically loves Elias, and he's sick and tired of people interrupting him and disrespecting him, and he's going to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. And Elias has a song that he wants to dedicate to Lana, which I think is very nice. But R-Truth comes into the ring and he interrupts him, but he interrupts him to tell him that he's sorry for interrupting him on Main Event. I think they had a segment on Main Event. And then Elias is like, but you're interrupting me now. So R-Truth doesn't say anything. He's like, I don't want to interrupt you anymore. And eventually, the entire 24/7 division chases R-Truth down to try to get him and win the title. But Riker basically beats up everyone. R-Truth escapes. And,
That happened, yeah.
That happened.
It's really funny, though, that all this chaos ensues and Riker, he basically levels a Latino and the Japanese person.
Oh, boy. Make one racist comment and you're canceled. Never again. No chance. No redemption.
We're going to move on to Miz Morrison backstage. The Miz talks about how he doesn't trust AJ Styles. He didn't like basically what AJ Styles said about him being the weak link last week. Keith Lee shows up, and this was weird. Honestly, I feel like Keith Lee was the chump of the episode, and I'll tell you why. He brings out a coin. He flips a coin, and then he says, "Congratulations, you both won." But that's not the only thing you're gonna win. Like, one, what the hell was the point of the coin? Like, that was so stupid. Like, and two, what are they doing with Keith Lee?
Remember when Chris Harris debuted as Braden Walker? That's what I felt like. That's what I felt here, but maybe not to the extent. But he's basically like, oh, you won the coin toss, but that's all you're gonna win. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but cool. what was the point? Like, what does this coin have to do with anything? But anyways,
what was Lee's plan? Like, he's like, okay, they're gonna call the coin toss correctly. I'm gonna make this crazy one-liner where I say, well, you won this, but that's all you're gonna win. What if they would have lost? I guess he would have said, and that's not the only thing you're going to lose. I guess he had his bases covered, but what was his plan?
But what was the point of the coin? I don't get it. I understand that This is written by Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon, but guys, listen, you're 70 years old. Maybe you should have some youth in there and trying to tell you that this is not funny. Anyways, we do have our next match. We have Keith Lee versus Miz Morrison, and listen, I get that it was a handicap match and that Keith Lee was outnumbered, okay? I also understand that Keith Lee put up a valiant effort, but the two of them pinning Keith Lee, he should have kicked out. I mean, Drew McIntyre beat these two easily just a couple of weeks ago. And I get it. If you wanted to sell this loss to me, you should have had Miz Morrison hit their finishers a couple of times, like a skull-crushing finale. Just give me multiple finishers and then have them both pin Keith Lee, not some... Ooh, the Miz tripped Keith Lee, Morrison falls on him, and then Miz uses his weight, which he doesn't weigh a lot, to defeat Keith Lee. Keith Lee didn't look good, in my opinion. Yes, he put up a great effort, but that was all nullified when you had Keith Lee losing the way that he did.
I mean, I agree, but I also kind of disagree. I mean, you had to make Miz and Morrison look good going into TLC, of course, because they're a factor, and Keith Lee is not. Yeah, I think everyone wants to see Keith Lee be a dominant guy and not lose like this, so that's gotta hurt. But I don't know. I agree. I didn't like it either. I thought it would have been better to just do something else.
Listen,
entirely.
I'm okay with the two of them pinning Keith Lee. I'm just not okay with the way that they pinned them. You legit just tripped the man. I don't get it. How is it that Keith Lee was not able to kick out? We've seen Keith Lee pick up Brock Lesnar. We've seen Keith Lee do some crazy things, and you're telling me that he can't kick out of John Morrison and The Miz, who combined maybe weigh about 250, 300 pounds? It doesn't make sense.
They don't weigh 250 combined. Each one weighs 250. Relax. Come on.
The Miz can be in 205. I know, but all I'm trying to say is that it didn't make Keith Lee look good. That at the end of the day, that's what it is. Because you can still look good in a loss, and this loss just made him look like a chump. That's all.
Nah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you there. I mean, there was a couple of good spots in the match, the Spirit Bomb. He tossed Morrison into Miz. It was kind of nice, but Yeah, it was okay. It was
Okay.
fine.
So we do have the Firefly Funhouse field trip in the ring, and all the Firefly Funhouse puppets are there. They're ringside. Bray Wyatt apologizes to Randy Orton. He talks about how they were having the time of their lives, but there was a misunderstanding because the Fiend can be sick, deranged, and twisted. And but at TLC, he promises that there shall be no fun and games, only sadness and pain, and that sounds splendid. I thought that was a pretty decent promo. He talks about how he has some jokes and how they're going to be hysterical. I was like,
yeah,
okay.
he made. I mean, before he says his jokes, of course, he says that he wants to have fun tonight because he's not sure what's going to be left of Randy Orton after TLC. He has a couple of jokes. He says the best way to measure a viper is inches because they don't have feet. How do you clean a car window? You use windshield vipers.
Yeah.
Randy Orton interrupts and he admits he was outmaneuvered by the Fiend last time. He also admits that he's very happy to play some games, and he actually wants to play a game with Bray Wyatt. And he says Bray should come find him, and they can play a game of hide and seek. And Bray is very excited, and he accepts, and he leaves the ring to presumably find Randy Orton. I don't know if they're going to meet up to decide, and then someone's going to count to 10, or if Randy's already hiding. That hasn't been explained. But
Randy Orton did say, "Come find me," so
I guess Randy Orton is already hiding. So I guess Bray is it. Now we have our match between Mace and Ricochet with Retribution ringside, Ali on commentary, and like it's whatever, right? Because like Ricochet and Mace are starting off. Mace is in control. Ricochet starts to pick up the pace. Ali's on commentary, and some of the things he says are pretty good. Like he says, like nobody's talking about how Retribution beat Team Raw, the most dominant team in Survivor Series history, which I think was a great way to put them over and not make them feel like chumps. He also throws shade at Samoa Joe, saying, like, aren't you sitting in Mace's chair? So, I mean, Mace is Dio Madden confirmed, I guess, even if you didn't already know. And then when Ricochet picks up the momentum, which is like 2 minutes in, he says, Slapjack, go after him. T-Bar, go after him. And Ricochet takes them out, too. But while he's taking them out, he walks right into a big slam, which he kicks out of, only to take another big slam and lose. And then Ali is like, well, this is not over until I say it's over, and it's over when you join Retribution.
Here's the thing. I agree with you completely, 100%. It still gives Retribution a storyline, and listen, it also gives Ricochet a storyline, and I do think that it's interesting how he says that it's not going to end until he joins Retribution, so should be interesting. Mace has the most potential out of everyone in that group. Like, there's at one point where he...
No, it's T-Bar, man. Come on.
Listen, my opinion is that like he has the most potential. Like he does an amazing sidekick, which was like shades of Booker T. It was basically what the Booker T sidekick that he used to do, and his finisher. Yes, like it was a slam. We don't know what it's called, but doesn't it kind of remind you a little bit of like the beginning being like an F5? It's kind of like a modified F5, and I'm like, yeah, because remember how Brock Lesnar took out Dio Madden, and Dio Madden on Twitter is like, I want to retire Brock Lesnar.
I'd be happy to see that. Like if we're building towards that,
he's such a big freaking guy, man. Like I feel like he does have the potential. He has a great look. He has a whole like Predator look going on. Like I think it's pretty cool.
I popped when he stood up to Brock Lesnar that time. Like I'm like, inject that in my veins. I'm ready. Let's see it.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. Like, but I'm ready for it. I'm super down.
So now we're gonna move to my favorite segment of the night.
Yes, and it's like what, less than a minute? It's amazing.
It's so good. So Bray Wyatt is looking for Randy Orton, and he asks Riddle if he has seen him. And Riddle has another business idea, man. He has so many business ventures, and he's like, listen, how about we teach bro-nouns? How about, like, we work together in a Firefly Funhouse, and we have a bro-noun segment? And Bray Wyatt's kind of busy, so he's like, I gotta go. And Rabbling Rabbit shows up, and Riddle says that, you know what, you remind me of Baby Yoda. I have a rabbit at home named Skipper, who's a big fan of you. And he asks him to sign his carrot. So, number one, Matt Riddle carries carrots with him at all times. And number two, please have this bro-noun segment in the Firefly Funhouse.
I also just love that he's like, hey, bro, and Bray's like, no, it's Bray.
It's Bray.
Like, that was funny for me. And, like, he's getting an autograph from the rabbit, sign my carrot. Yeah, I guess he walks around with carrots and bro nuts to kind of keep a healthy balance. So, good for Riddle. This segment was solid. It lasted a minute, but I was entertained
it was
the entire time.
It was really, really good. So now we do have Shayna Baszler versus Dana Brooke. not much of a match because Dana is in a little bit of a control when she reverses the Kirifuda clutch, but then Nia doesn't. It doesn't take long for Nia to come and interfere, throw her from the top rope. The ref calls for the bell. They start working on Dana Brooke, and then Mandy Rose, which, by the way, looking like $1,000,000. She returns and she nails both of them with a couple of kendo stick shots. Asuka also comes out, and we see some impressive tag team from Mandy and Asuka. And this is where we're told that Lana can't compete at TLC, and they're wondering who is going to replace Lana.
It could be any of the sexy muscle friends, but only one, unless they make a 3-on-2 handicap match. Now that'd be cool.
That would be cool. So now R-Truth is backstage and he's talking to someone, we still don't know who, but he talks about getting a PS6 for his nephew since the PS5 is sold out everywhere. And I'm like, man, R-Truth has got them hookups over at Sony. And it turns out that he's talking to Huskus. And this is so funny. Bray Wyatt shows up and he's like, you shouldn't talk to strangers, Huskus. And R-Truth is like, he's right, you should listen to your father. Like, I don't know, man. I actually laughed. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, so Bray is still on the hunt for Randy Orton. He walks to a dark room, and then he sees his old rocking chair. So Bray is kind of having some flashbacks. He does.
And it's rocking by itself, eh?
Yeah, he does sit on the chair. Randy Orton nails him from behind. He puts him in some sort of container, and then he pours gasoline all over it, and we all know where this is going. He lights it on fire. So we are supposed to believe that Bray Wyatt is on fire.
Except
he's not.
He emerges from the box, the flaming box lid opens, and the Fiend pops out and locks Randy in the mandible claw.
Yeah.
And takes him out. So I guess Randy was outmaneuvered once again, I would have to say.
Exactly.
Too bad.
Now we have Riddle versus MVP. This match lasts maybe a minute. Riddle just hits him with a running knee and the floating bro for the win. Lashley comes out, but Riddle escapes with his bro nuts. That's pretty much all you need to know about this segment or this match.
And then we have the final segment, the championship ascension ceremony between Drew McIntyre, AJ Styles,
so good,
a little bit of Omos, and Tom Phillips is in the ring. Yeah, they both cut solid promos. Like Tom Phillips is basically like, well, you're going to hang the title and then you guys can address each other. Except that's not what happens because AJ immediately addresses Drew, gives him some advice saying that he should address the title because it's the last time he'll have it. He did some studying, talks about how Drew took 19 years to make it to the top. He's never been in a TLC match either, whereas AJ Styles has successfully defended the WWE title in a TLC match. And he knows what it takes to win. Drew is saying that he's always wanted this match, and he's also the champion that led WWE in this unprecedented pandemic era. Basically, he doesn't call it the pandemic era, but that's kind of what he means. And he's the champion that will tear AJ apart. And one of my favorite lines is what he says something like, everybody dies, but not everybody truly lives. Mm-hmm. And he's going to do anything to keep his title as he attaches it onto the hook. So presumably he won't have his title until Sunday.
Now, here's the thing. What did you think about that stupid background music that was playing as the title was being ascended?
Oh my God, it's true. I forgot about it, but I did remember thinking, like, what is this?
Right? Like, I don't know. It was just weird. And then AJ Styles gets on the mic and he's like, what if it's not just me and you that go face to face at TLC? And then Miz and Morrison, they show up. They throw a ladder at Drew McIntyre. Drew does fight back. He hits a Claymore on Miz, and then he also hits a Claymore on Morrison, who was holding a ladder. I thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. He does hit Style with a Glasgow kiss, but almost causes the distraction by throwing the steel steps.
The 5-ton stairs.
Oh yeah, so he's a strong jack dude, and AJ Styles takes advantage of that distraction, hits the phenomenal forearm on Drew, nails him with a couple of ladder shots, like even a couple of chairs. He sets up a table. He elbow drops from the top of a ladder on Drew McIntyre onto the table. He climbs a ladder kid. He makes himself famous. He grabs the belt, and that's how the show ends.
Mm-hmm. So he basically did the Nightmare Before TLC, like he said. That was foreshadowing, that opening segment, because he hit him with all the things. The T's, the C's, the L's. Absolutely. He hit him with all of them.
The T's, the C's, the L's, yes. So I thought that Raw, as we're talking, was a pretty good show. If you look at the matches, I do think that it was odd that we had like 2 matches that maybe lasted a minute. But
there was a significant decline in the match quality. Like I think what we talked about Riddle MVP, that was like a minute. Nia Jax Lana was like a minute.
Yes, but let's not forget that
versus Ricochet was like a minute.
Yeah, but the 6-man tag was great. Sheamus AJ was great. So
yeah,
if I can describe the episode, I thought that the first half of the episode or the first hour of the episode was phenomenal, was really, really good. The second half kind of fizzled a little bit, but sprinkled with amazing Riddle segments, right? And that was the saving grace in my opinion. Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt was really good as well. And then the last hour or the last half of the episode, I love the Ascension segment or whatever they want to call it. It's better than always having a contract signing in my opinion. And I thought it was pretty effective. Like AJ Styles did make some good points, and Drew McIntyre fired back with good points of his own. How he talks about how he doesn't crack under the pressure. He does thrive under the pressure, and this journey that AJ Styles talked about made him this way, and who he is today. So I thought it was a really good episode of Monday Night Raw. Like I'd give it a 7.5. And let's not forget this was a go home episode for TLC, and I do think that it's going to be a really good pay-per-view. I just don't see any titles changing hands.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that. Like the episode was solid. All of the backstage segments were great. The matches at the beginning and the first couple of matches were great. Mm-hmm. The matches did decline throughout the episode, but we had a lot of strong backstage segments to keep it up. Like I enjoyed the Ascension ceremony. I enjoyed Riddle's segments, Bray Wyatt's stuff. Even Elias's little segment was great. R-Truth was great. It's just like I said, just a couple of those matches toward the end just felt like they were a waste of time. But yeah, other than that, it was a solid go-home episode.
Do you know why you think that, though? Because that's how you fill a 3-hour show. So that was our recap for Monday Night Raw. You would think
it'd be easier to fill a 3-hour show by just having wrestling happen, but no, apparently not.
It's true. It's a good point. So that's it. So we kind of have an idea of how TLC is shaping up. We still have one more episode of SmackDown. Look forward to that recap on Friday night. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
So do you think Miz is going to show up and cash in on TLC, or what? Is that what's going to happen? I personally hope he cashes in and just loses instantly.
I think I was just about to say, I think that maybe he does cash in, but I hope he instantly loses. But it really depends what they want to do with this. Like, for example, if like the Miz wins and then Edge comes out, and then like Edge challenges him for whatever reason, Edge wins the title, and then they set up Edge versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania for the title. I don't know. It could be many things.
I was hoping that was like, now they just ditched it. They realized the error of their ways by having Drew lose to Randy, and they're like, okay, we'll just have Edge Orton without the title. I hope that's not a thing. That's not still their plan to.
Or Goldberg is gonna show up.
Oh god.
He's gonna show up. He's gonna do like a stupid looking jackknife firebomb, possibly like kill someone in the process. And
don't forget that he would already be busted open from banging his head on a door. So don't forget about that.